Hi everyone. Since Minecraft 1.16, AFK fish farms with this small setup no longer let you obtain treasure such as enchanted books, and instead you need a setup in which you're fishing in what technically counts as open water, such as this one. As I understand, the fix which allows you to still obtain treasure while fishing in open water involves using a redstone clock to periodically reel the line back automatically whether a fish is on the line or not, and a small proportion of the time this will coincide with a fish or item being on the line. Of course, the problem with this is that it's very inefficient. So is there a better way to AFK fish in 1.16 and later? You can always use an auto-fishing mod or a data pack which changes the loot tables, but then you're changing the actual Minecraft game and what you're playing is no longer technically vanilla. And of course you can't do this on multiplayer servers where you don't control the game files. I'd like to show a relatively simple way in which, if you're happy to use an external program, you can use Python to continue to AFK fish in 1.16 with 100% efficiency while also obtaining treasure, using a method that isn't a mod and should work in any context of Minecraft, including multiplayer servers. So here's the technique working at the moment. To show this, I've got it working on another computer with an alt account. And on that computer I'm not touching the mouse or keyboard at all, and Python is continuously right-clicking at the exact moment to reel in a fish and recast the line whenever it needs to. So the concept here is fairly simple. If you look at the subtitles on the bottom right, when the bobber splashes to indicate that there's a fish on the line, it puts out a sound effect which is louder than when you're just standing there waiting for a fish. We can use Python to detect when the computer's output volume goes higher than a certain threshold and make Python right-click whenever that happens. Now, in order to remove interference from other sounds arising from the computer, it helps to stop any other programs that output sound. You also have to set up Minecraft such that the only sound above that volume threshold is going to come from the fishing bobber splashing. And I'll show you how to do this when I get to the tutorial. Okay, let's go through an overview of what needs to be done to set this up. There are 4 broad stages to this, with the 4th being optional and not really necessary, but it makes for a slightly better experience. Step 1 is to set up your open water AFK fish farm and change Minecraft sound settings. Step 2 is to download and install Python 3 if you don't have it, and install the 2 necessary Python libraries, which are basically just extensions of the Python programming language. Once this is done, you can copy and paste the text in the description to make a Python file, and make sure you can run this Python script without any problems. If you're completely new to using Python on your computer, then this will probably be the most complicated step, but it's still relatively simple. Once you're able to run the Python script on your computer, you'd have a solution which is barely usable, but really isn't ideal. And here's why. The sounds coming from programs on your computer, including Minecraft, count as system output, and your system output is by default being sent to your speakers or headphones or whatever device you use. The pyaudio module of Python, as far as I understand, can only detect system input, and that's set by default to be probably your built-in laptop microphone or an external microphone that you use. Now, as a reminder, this whole system uses the volume of the sounds coming from Minecraft to decide when to reel the fishing line back in. If you're using a laptop with speakers and the default laptop microphone, then it would work because the sound that's coming from the laptop speakers is getting picked up by the laptop microphone anyway and ends up in the system input audio. You can also reproduce this by placing an external microphone right next to some headphones. However, it would also pick up any sound from whatever's happening near your computer, and this might cause the fishing rod to be reeled back in any time, for example, you speak near the computer or literally any sound occurs near your computer. So this brings us to step 3. So step 3 is to download and set up a routing software to enable system output to be routed through to the system input. The way we do this is by setting both the system input and output to be that software. The actual software to download is different between Mac and Windows, and it seems like the best choice is always changing, but I'll show the simplest way that I know currently. Once you've done this, the technique works fully, but as long as you're AFK fishing, you won't be able to actually hear your own computer's sounds, because the output is going through the routing software and not through your speakers or headphones. But if you're not going to be at the computer, this shouldn't be a problem, and you can just change it back when you return from AFKing. Step 4 is completely optional, and it's to enable multi-audio output so that you can route the system output sounds to the program, which routes it to the system input, and to your speakers. Now this step is really simple on a Mac. On Windows it might need another software depending on what version of Windows you have, but I'll show you how to do it by downloading the software anyway. Once you've done this, this allows Python to detect system audio output rather than input, and also play that output to your speaker at the same time. But as I mentioned before, this final step isn't necessary if you're happy to just not hear the fishing sounds Minecraft's making when you're AFK. Now let's go through the specifics of how to set this up. So to start with, you need a fishing setup in which you can gain treasure. Now I can't say I'm 100% confident of the exact requirements of this and that I always build this correctly in survival, but this works for me. It's a pool of water 5x5 horizontally and 4 blocks deep. You then need to make sure that in the area up to 2 blocks above the water, there are only air blocks or lily pads. This isolated block here is the one that I click at when using the fishing rod, so that the bobber gets thrown against it and lands exactly in the middle block of the 5x5 pool of water every time. I've put some hoppers below where I'd be standing and also a hopper at the bottom of the pool because I noticed that sometimes items fall down here and this hopper catches them quite nicely. There's probably better designs out there and you can use whatever works for you as long as it seems to get items into a chest consistently and it includes treasure. Next we need to set up Minecraft sound settings. I've turned on the subtitles here so you can see what sounds Minecraft is playing at all times. The sound that's played when a fish is on the line is called fishing bobber splashes. Now if you go to Minecraft sound settings you can see all these categories of sounds. The fishing bobber splashes sound happens to be in the friendly creatures category. And so what we can do is turn off all sounds in Minecraft except this category. Now before you do this, if you like your exact sound settings, then you should make a note of the exact levels because you can't automatically snap them back to default afterwards. So let's ideally keep the master volume on the highest possible. We'll keep friendly creatures on also as high as possible and turn off all these other sound categories completely. So this is to reduce the possibility that other Minecraft sounds, for example Minecraft's music or other players entering the area on a multiplayer server, or weather such as thunderstorms, don't interfere with the mechanism for reeling in fish. You also need to just ensure that you won't have any other computer programs open that will play sound continuously. Now, a one-off sound like some notification is completely fine because when the sound plays, the program will think a fish is on the line and you'll just recast the line and carry on fishing. So that's the worst thing that happens. It's just programs that might continue to play sound that need to be stopped. For example, you can't do something like listen to music on this same computer. But this should be fine because the point is to be AFK. Okay, so we've done step 1. From step 2 onwards, there are a few differences between Mac and Windows, so I'm going to show both separately. Feel free to use the timestamps in the description to jump to whatever section you need to watch. I'll show steps 2 to 4 in Windows first, and then move on to Mac OS. Now I've tried to cater this whole tutorial for people who have no idea about Python or programming, so that this method for AFK fishing is as accessible as possible. However, if you are comfortable with running Python in whatever environment you want and installing libraries with pip, then you can probably save time by just reading and following the text instructions in the description instead and selectively watching whichever sections of the video you need to. Okay, so let's go through how to continue on Windows. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make a folder to work in. Now this could be anywhere, but I'm going to create it on the desktop. So I'm going to call it something like AFK Fish Farming. The next thing to do is make sure you don't somehow already have Python installed on your computer, because if that's the case, then you can just skip the whole Python installation process. The way we're going to be running Python and running the Python script is by using terminal or command prompt. So that's how to use the computer without using its graphic user interface. So we're going to go to start and type in cmd and then click enter. So this is the command prompt. Here we can type in commands such as run this Python script, for example. So the stage you want to be at after you've installed Python is that you can type in Python and then you get something like Python 3 point something. And the 3 arrows at the bottom show you that you're in the Python console. Now, if you don't have Python installed, which is likely the case, I'm going to spell it wrongly just to simulate what will probably happen on your computer. Type in enter, you'll get something like Python is not recognized as an internal or external command. So what that means is you just need to download and install Python. Now, you can either click on the link in the description or go on Google and just type in download Python and download the latest version from the official website. There's not too much different to installing Python compared to any other program, but at the beginning of the installation, if it asks whether you want to add Python to path, there should be a tick box for that. Then definitely make sure that that's ticked. Otherwise, there's a bit of work to do afterwards to make sure you can run it cleanly in your command prompt. And at the end, if it says disable path length limit, then make sure you have that ticked as well. Okay, so if you have Python installed correctly, Python 3, then you can type in Python and then you'll get Python 3 point something. At the time of making this video, it's 3.9, but this might change. To get out of this, type in quit, open bracket, close bracket. Okay, the other thing you need to now make sure is we don't just want to run Python, we want to be able to run Python with the 2 extra libraries or modules that extend the Python programming language. So pip is the package manager that comes with Python and allows us to install these extra libraries. So if you type in pip space -- version, you should get pip and then it says some version number. But importantly, it says from and then at the end Python 3.9 and this number here should match the version of Python over here. So if that's the case, then you've got Python and pip working correctly. We could install the 2 libraries now, but let's skip to creating the Python script file and trying to run it to make sure that works. So I could have uploaded the script file to some download/upload website and posted a link in the description for you to download, but some people might not trust that download. So I've put the code directly in the description so you can copy and paste that into a file that you create. So what we're going to do is go to Notepad, open a Notepad file, and then go to the YouTube description and copy that code. So I'm going to just paste this in here, and then we're going to save this in the same folder that we're in, the AFK Fish Farming folder. So let me just show you how to get it. So desktop, AFK Fish Farming, and then we're not going to save it as a text document. We're going to click all files, and then give it a simple name like just script, and then script.py. So I've already created it, so it's going to ask this, but it won't for you. So we've got a script.py file in this folder. So let me just show you that. Yeah, so this folder just consists of the script.py folder. So now if we type in Python, the way to run a script is Python space and then the script name. Script.py. Sorry, so we're not in the folder yet. So now we're in the default folder that command prompt opens up to. To move to that folder, we type in cd space and then drag that folder into the command prompt and then click enter. So now we're in that folder. We can type in Python space script.py and then you should get something like this. This was your attempt to run the Python script and it has run it correctly. It's just within the script, there's reference to something that doesn't exist yet. So module not found error, no module named pyautogui. So this is the first library that we need to install. This is the library that allows Python to click with the mouse. So the way we do this is type in pip space install space pyautogui. So it starts to collect and then install the packages necessary for this to work. Okay, so the last line was successfully installed and then all these packages. This error I'm not going to worry about. It's not relevant to this at the moment, so I'm going to ignore it. Okay, so that was pyautogui. Now if we run the script, it no longer says pyaudio as an error, but it mentions pyaudio. So that's the next one we need to install. Now this should be just as simple, but on my computer I get this error. You might get this error as well. So if I type in pip install pyaudio, so it was working until it tried to install it, and then it shows this error. So the way we're going to do this, to keep this simple, what we need to do is download a separate pyaudio setup file and then put that into this folder, and then pip install that instead of just the word pyaudio. So I'm going to open that website here, and the link for this is in the description. Okay, so this is the link in the description. Just search in here pyaudio, and you should get to this section here where all the different pyaudio setup files are. We want to click on the top one. This could be different for you by the time you watch this. What this 39 means is that it's for Python 3.9, which is the one that I've installed, but it could be, a different Python by that time. And then the difference between the top two is that this is for 32-bit processors and this is for 64-bit processors. Most computers now have 64-bit processors, and so does this one. So I'm going to click this to download it. Okay, now we can click show in folder, and then we want to move this to the AFK fish farming folder. So I'm going to cut and paste it here. Okay, and then we want to copy the name. So I'm just going to go to rename and then select the whole thing and then copy. So now we can go back to the command prompt and type in pip space install and then paste. Okay, I just right click and it pastes it automatically, and then Control V or paste the name that you copied, and then click enter, and then there should be no problem with that. Okay, so now when you type in python script.py, i.e. you run the script, you shouldn't get any errors. You should get a stream of numbers coming in which represent the volume of the audio that Python is detecting. And if I put my mouse here, you can see that it should also be right-clicking whenever the volume that's detected is larger than the default threshold, which I've set as 150. So if I remain silent, the levels are low, but as I speak, they go into the thousands. So this is because I have my microphone set up. If you don't have a microphone, then you'll probably be getting zeros. Now, this is a problem because ideally we want Python to pick up Minecraft sounds and not the microphone sounds. So if you remember, what we need to do is install a routing software and then set the computer's input and output to be that software. And what that does is route Minecraft's sounds to output, and then output to the routing software, and then the routing software to input, which is picked up by Python. So we're going to do this by installing a routing software called Virtual Audio Cable. So there'll be a link in the description as well, but you can also just type in Virtual Audio Cable. And then this is the link you should get, vbaudio.com, and then click download for Windows. I'm just going to show you the installation process. So we extract the file. And then we run the correct setup file. So the x64 is for 64-bit processors, so likely you'll need to run this one. So I've already got it installed, but you should be able to just follow the simple instructions and then it'll be set up. Once you have Virtual Audio Cable installed, you should have the option to change your sound, your output and input to Virtual Audio Cable. So at the moment I've got my microphone as the output, as in it's going into the headphones connected to my microphone. If I click that, I can see Virtual Audio Cable. To change the input, you right click on that sound and click on Open Sound Settings, and then you can change the input device as well. So you can see my microphone picking up the sound. Once I change this, it's no longer picking that up. So now that we've got input and output set up as the routing software, we should be able to detect computer sounds in Python. So now you should get a bunch of zeros. But if we play a sound in the computer, so I'm going to do it just by, when you adjust the sound level here, it plays a sound. You can see the numbers go higher. So we have everything set up, and now we can try testing it out with Minecraft. Okay, so now the important thing is we need to, before we open Minecraft, we need to actually have this running before we do that. If you're already playing Minecraft, then you need to quit and open it again. So I'm going to have this script running, and then I'm going to open Minecraft. Okay, so I've got Minecraft open. Every time you click a button, Minecraft normally makes a noise, so you should see the numbers coming up in the terminal as well. So you can see it went up to 56, 57. So it should be working fine. If you didn't get those, then try closing both Minecraft and the terminal, opening the command prompt again, going to the AFK fish farming folder and running the script, and then opening Minecraft. Or also try restarting your computer. So with the script running, all we need to do is right-click. Now what we want to do is when the first fish comes in, we want to note the volume that it increases to. Note the maximum. Okay, so I'm going to pause and then cancel this quickly. So we can see that the number I got was 1,200. Now what we want is a clear separation between the numbers, the volume level when we're just waiting for a fish, which seems to be in this case, you know, lots of zeros, max up to 6. Maybe at the beginning we were getting, I don't know what this 23 was, but it looks like it's just going, you know, below 10. And then when a fish does come, it looks like it's going all the way up to 1,200. So any threshold between, you know, 10 and 1,000 should do. But the lower the better, so that we make sure we absolutely do reel in the fish every time it comes on. So it's by default set as 150, which is more than fine for my current setup. If you're getting much lower numbers, if you're somehow getting like 100 every time a fish comes in, then this isn't going to work because 100 is less than the default threshold. Now to change this, what you need to do is edit the file. So we go to the script file. You can edit with anything. I would just keep it simple, open it with Notepad. More apps, Notepad. And then it's on the second line here. So if you want to change this 150 to something like 50 or something lower, you might need to do that, but 150 should be fine for me for now. So I'm just gonna save it. Okay, so we'll get back to this. Now I'm going to run the script again. So for some reason I'm getting this issue where every time I run the script again, it doesn't recognize Minecraft sounds, but it does recognize the sound coming from the computer through this dial when you're testing out the volume level. So what this means is you need to open Minecraft again. So now you can see once again it's registering the clicks as sound. Now I'm not sure why this error occurs. On Mac it's not like that. I might find a fix for it. If so, I'll put it in the description or as a comment. Okay, so you've seen this before. It's working. So we're going to wait for a fish to come. Keep the cursor pointed at the block. There it was. So what happened was that the fishing bobber splashes sound was played. The volume went up to 1,000 and something, and that's above 150, so Python clicked, and then clicked again to cast the line again. So you'll notice that so far we can't hear any sound, but that should be fine if you're happy to just leave the computer like this and then change your sound output and input back to normal when you're done AFK fishing. That works. If you absolutely do want the sound, then we need to move on to step 4. Okay, so there is something called stereo mix on some Windows computers. It depends on what sound card you have, I think. But not all computers have that, so I'm going to show you how to download this multi-audio output software. So you need to go to voicemeter.com, or you can just Google it and then download the standard version. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I'd go about installing this. Okay, so you extract it and then just click voice meter setup. Okay, so I've installed it and now I need to restart the computer. Okay, so if you've restarted your computer, we can proceed to setting up voice meter. So you just go to start, type in voice meter and open it. Now it looks quite complicated, but there are only a few things you need to do. So so this is input here, your virtual input, and then hardware out is the output. So change input, it might already be set. Don't worry about that. So just change the output to the two things that you want it to route to. So select A1 and output should be virtual audio cable here. And then select A2 and select whatever speakers or headphones you want the sound to come out of. So I've selected my microphone speakers here. Now you can close this. Then set the output here to be voice meter. And just to make sure, keep input as virtual audio cable and output as voice meter. So now what you can do is run the Python script. By the way, you can press up to get to the previous command you entered. Enter. So I'm getting zeros, that's promising, so it's not picking up my microphone. And then if I play a sound, okay, that didn't work. Let me see what's happening. Okay, so you have to keep voice meter open, but that shouldn't be a problem. You just open it up whenever you need to. So keep this open, just minimize it, and then run the script again. And then we get zeros. If I play this, okay, so not only is it coming up as registering in the Python script as an increase in volume, you can also hear that. Brilliant, so now we should be able to make this work with Minecraft. Okay, so now I should be able to hear the sound as well as register sound in Python. Okay, so now it's working. We'll just wait for a fish to come onto the line. Okay, so that's all 4 steps on Windows. Do let me know if you have any trouble. Either post a comment or message me with the specific information. I hope you've enjoyed and I hope this was useful. So the first thing to do is actually make sure that you don't already have Python 3 installed, because then you can just skip the whole installation process. The way we're going to test this and to show what stage you need to be at in order to continue with the tutorial is we're going to open terminal. So to do that, I'll press Command space to get max search function up and then type in terminal and then enter. So a window like this should pop up. So the terminal is the way that you use a computer without its graphic user interface. So I'm just going to make it big with command plus. So here you can type commands which tell the computer to do things. We're going to type in Python 3. Now I expect you not to get this if you don't have Python 3 already installed. But if you do, you'll get something like Python 3 point something. And then 3 arrows pointing right at the bottom. If you've got this, then perfect, you have Python 3 installed. But I expect that you'll get something like... So I've spelt it wrong on purpose here to simulate what would likely happen in a computer without Python 3 installed. So if you get something like Python 3 command not found, then you need to install Python 3. So I'd install it just by going on Google, typing download Python 3 and going to the main website and installing it for Mac. So once you've done that, you should be able to type in Python 3 and then you get Python 3 point something. To get out of this, you type in quit and then open bracket, close bracket. The other thing you need to do is make sure that you have pip working correctly. So pip, or pip, is the package manager for Python that allows you to download libraries that extend the Python language. And we need to download 2 for the script to work. So type in pip3 space -- version. And if you get something like pip and then some number here, that's good. But at the end, you want to make sure that it says from, and then it's coming from Python, and then this number should match the number that the version that you get when you type Python 3. So if you've got that working, that's perfect. You're now at the stage where you can try running the script. You'll get an error because you haven't installed those 2 libraries, but we should do that first. Okay, so once you can install Python 3 in the terminal, we need to test out running a script. So let's create a new folder. I'm creating it in the desktop for ease, but you can create it anywhere. Let's call it AFK fish farming or something like that. So in the terminal, we need to move to that folder. So we're going to type in cd space and then drag the folder in here and then press enter. So now we're in that folder in the terminal. So I could have uploaded the script file to some download or upload website and posted a link to it, but people might not trust it to download. So I'm copying and pasting the code into the description, so you can just copy and paste it into a file that you create yourself. So let's create that file. So now that we're in that folder, you type in touch space and then whatever you want the file to be called. We'll just keep it simple, script.py, and then click enter. Now when you open this folder, you should see it says script.py. So then we need to open that and edit that and paste in the code. So you can use any text editor you want, but because every Mac has text edit, I'm just going to use that for ease of access. So copy the code in the description and then paste it in here. So this is the code. It might look slightly different if I changed it. And then save. And then you can close this. Well, you don't have to close it actually, so we'll just keep it open. So now if you type in Python 3 space script.py, you should get this. So this is your attempt to run the script, and you get a module not found error, no module named pyautogui. So that's the name of the first module that we need to install, or library, basically extension of the Python programming language. So to install that, we'll type in pip3. Well, before I install it, so this is the library that allows Python to sort of take over and click the mouse when we tell it to, or when it needs to. So we type in pip3 install pyautogui. Press enter, and this will take a while. Now, so if I can see everything, it just says collecting. So there's no errors so far. Okay, so you can see it just, this is the last line actually, installing collector packages, and then installed all of these. Oh, sorry, this is the last line, successfully installed, and then all these things. This warning, I'm going to ignore that for now. It's not relevant to this. So you've got pyautogui installed. So the next module is pyaudio. So pip3 install pyaudio. Okay, so that's also says successfully installed pyaudio. Okay, if you got an error with either of those, then let me know either by messaging, or you could Google pip install, pyaudio or whichever module it was, and then copy and paste the error that you got and try and solve it yourself. But yeah, I'm happy to help with this if you post a comment or message me or something. So now if you type in Python 3 space script.py, this is what you should get. So you should get some numbers coming up. Okay, so the script's actually working right now. Every time I'm speaking into the mic, it's right-clicking. You can see that I'm not actually doing that right-click. But the point is you have a stream of numbers, You might be getting 000, but you're getting a stream of numbers. That means it's working perfectly, and you can move on to the next part. To cancel this, you need to do Control and C. So Control and C interrupts the Python script. Okay, so we're on to step 3. Now let me remind you of the rationale for step 3. So if I type in python3 script.py, which runs the script, you'll see numbers, and you'll notice that when I'm silent, the numbers are low, and when I'm speaking, they become high. So this is to show that it's detecting my speech through my microphone, and the reason it's doing that is because Python detects what's set as input. It also happens to be right-clicking every time. So there's a cooldown period, but after that cooldown period, if it ever detects volume higher than a set threshold, which I've set as 150 as default, 150, then it'll right-click. So let me stop this first, and so Control-C to stop. If I show you on System Preferences, Sound, you'll see that my input is the Yeti stereo microphone. So remember that what we need to do is to detect Minecraft sounds, which are coming from the computer's output sounds. We do that by downloading and installing the routing software, and then setting both the output and input to be that routing software. And that channels the output to the routing software, then the routing software to the input, and then input to Python. So there are a few routing softwares out there. One's called pyaudio audio capture, another is Soundflower, but those two are both outdated, and I think the most up-to-date one is Black Hole. So if you type in audio router or something, yeah, you get this link, existential.audio, and this is the site you download it from. You do need to give your email address, but that's not too big a deal. So you might not need to do this. If you stream OBS on a Mac, and you've needed to get the sound from your computer to be captured on OBS, then it's essentially the same concept. You need to set output and input, or essentially you need to set on OBS the input to be that software, and then also output to be that software. But yeah, so I started streaming OBS on a Mac, or using OBS on a Mac a few years ago, and at that time pyaudio audio capture was the thing that Google and links that I got from Google told me to download. So I've got pyaudio audio capture. If you have that as well, you can just use that. You don't need to download Black Hole. So you can use any routing software, but once you've downloaded it and set it up, you should get that option available in input and output. And if you don't, then you could just maybe restart the computer. But you should get an option to put Black Hole to as input. So now Black Hole is input, and you can see it's no longer showing that the volume level gets high as I'm speaking, because it's not detecting input from my microphone. And we can set output to also be Black Hole, or whichever software you use. So as long as they're both the same, then you're good to go. So perfect. So now if I type in, oh, by the way, you can, when you're in terminal, you can just press the up arrow to get the previous command you typed. So python3 script.py. So now you can see it's just outputting zeros because it's detecting the computer sound, and I haven't played anything. So I've just got a sound, just a random sound from Mac's, default alerts. So if I play this, you can see we get numbers here. If I play it again. Yeah, so right now Python is detecting the computer's output sound. Okay, so here comes the exciting part. Now that we have everything in place, we can try it out, and I'll also go through how to sort of troubleshoot a specific issue that you might have as well. Let's go to the terminal, python3 script.py, and enter. And you'll get loads of zeros. Now if we go back to Minecraft, I'm going to start fishing, and what we want to do is on the first try see what the maximum volume we get is in the terminal. So as soon as I get a fish, I'm going to quit it or pause it and check what that number was. Okay, there we go. So we got 1, pause, and then cancel here. So the highest number we got here was 180. Now that's good. So as long as this is higher than the threshold we set in the script, it's going to reel in the fish. Now if it's consistently 180, I mean, that's a bit close to 150, so I'd probably lower the threshold. So you've got a clear separation between the sound of the fishing bobber splashing and the sound when you're normally not doing anything. It's normally 0, 1, 2, maybe 8 up to, so it's always 0 and then it goes up to 180. So you could have the threshold set to anything in between there. Let's say we want to change the threshold because 150 is a bit close to 180. Say a fish came on the line and the volume was 145 or something, then we wouldn't reel in the fish and that would be inefficient. So what you do is you open up the file in TextEdit or whatever editor you want, and it's on the second line here. So sound threshold 150. I'm just going to change it to something like, you could even do as low as 20, because as long as when nothing's happening your sound level is 0, then that's fine. So to change it to 20, press up on terminal, get to the previous command. So there you go. Oh, fine, yeah. So now we go back to Minecraft and we just start fishing. And I guess you've seen this already, so this is it. It's working perfectly. Let's wait for a fish to come on. And so it worked. This time it was 167, you can see on the left. But yeah, so now it's working. So you might notice that we can't actually hear the sound still. And that's because we haven't done step 4. Step 4 is to set up a multi-audio output. And that's really easy to do on a Mac. So let me unfish. Stop fishing, pause. And we'll cancel this as well. What you need to do is go to do command space again, audio MIDI setup, and then click that. So I've already got loads set up, but your list, this is the list on the left, your list might be a lot smaller. So what you need to do is go to the plus down here, create multi-output device, and then click it. So then here is what you're going to set as to be the outputs in this multi-output device. So the first one is black hole, because that's the routing software that you've set as output. And then the second is whatever you want it to come out of. So if I wanted to come out of my laptop speakers, I would put built-in output. But it's a bit complicated, it's a bit meta, just because I'm recording using OBS, and OBS uses iShowU, so I'm going to click iShowU, but you should set it as whatever other speaker that you want sound to come out of. So you do that, and then you can rename this as whatever you want. So I'm going to put black hole plus, because the output device, multi-output device we just created. And then we start again. Well, now you should be hearing Minecraft sounds. Yeah. So now when you get a splash, you're going to hear... Yeah, you should have heard that. Okay, so this is all steps on a Mac. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was useful. Do let me know if you run into any trouble.